Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Read and Reread. I am Angelia, and today I am here with a book haul. I also want to give you a brief life update about the things that have been happening and why I've been gone the past week. So first of all, I'm just really glad that I am able to make a video today and that I'm back home for now. And thank you to everyone who gave kind and thoughtful comments to my community post last week. And in case you missed that, last Saturday, it happened around bedtime Saturday night. My mother-in-law fell at home. She's 85 and living with dementia, and she fell down and broke kind of where your femur meets your hip. So she had successful surgery to repair that, and she's been in the hospital all week. And the last several days, she's been at the verge where we thought they kept saying, oh, tomorrow's the day, we're going to send her to the rehab facility to, work on her strength and her getting her walking back and all of that. But a lot of different things have delayed it. Some of them are physical concerns, things that were maybe in different labs that she had, or things weren't quite right. And some of it is, well, all of it is exacerbated by just how the hospital setting and the trauma and the confusion and the medications have really added to her disorientation. And so trying to find the right setting that she will be able to do the rehab. So there's just a lot going on. So we were there all week trying to help with all of that and just kind of be there for the family and be there with her in her hospital room so my father-in-law could go home and take breaks and stuff like that. And we do, it's not just us. We have other siblings and family that were there. So it was kind of a team effort, and it still is. So we came home because we were there for all week. We're home now. I think Steven's going to go back up on his own in a couple days, and I'm going to hold down this fort. And then next week, we also have my daughter's college graduation, which we're very excited about, but there's just a lot going on, and some of it's unpredictable and unresolved. So if I disappear again, bear with me, because April just kind of went a different direction all of a sudden as things happen like that sometimes. So, but I'm here today and I'm doing a haul. And this was already, I had this pile set before all this happened, and then we basically just ran out the door with stuffing things in a bag as we went. And here's one of my disclaimers. I shouldn't have had a haul maybe for a while, and I really didn't. I just had a couple of books, but then we went to that festival. Is it my fault that they have a bookstore in the cellar of the library? Friends of the Public Library use bookstore down there. And is it my fault that they decided to have a half-off sale the same day as the festival and run around advertising that and telling everybody about it? So what recourse did I have but to go down there twice and dig through it and find some things? So it kind of blew up my pile, and now it's a full-on haul pile, and I simply must share it with you. First of all, you've seen this one, but it never made it into a haul video yet, so it had to have its moment. But James by Percival Everett, and so far this is my favorite book of 2024, but there's a lot of year left, and it's not the only really good book I've read this year, but it's really at the top of the list right now. And of course, everybody's talking about James, and I've talked about it a number of times and managed to wedge it into several tags already, but it is the Huckleberry Finn retelling from the perspective of Jim, and it is absolutely wonderful. When I read James, one thing that happens in that book is that James has some kind of dream conversations with intellectuals and philosophers, because he's actually a very self-educated man, literate. One of the thinkers that he talks to in his dream sequences is Voltaire, and he gets a hold of a copy of Candide in the book, and it's the first novel that he's ever read. He's read nonfiction books that he snuck out of Judge Thatcher's library, but Candide is his first novel. It just so happens that in July, Candide is the selection in my banned book club, and I do have an old beat up copy that I read in college with my notes in it, but in a recent video, the Mild Rumpus had one of this edition of Candide on one of his bookshelf tours. He has a series called I Touch My Shelf, and I will link his channel. I don't remember which video he talked about this book, but when I saw it, I thought, oh my gosh, is that Chris Ware's artwork on this edition of Candide? And indeed it is. And so I got a copy. Look, it has French flaps and uh-oh, it has deckled edges too. Remember the deckled edge controversy from a couple months ago? All right, I cut out an entire effort to read this incredibly tiny print. I promise the print in the book is not that bad, but the print on the back of this book is so small I can barely read it. I might need new glasses. And I'm gonna be like, But, okay, here it goes. I'm going to try again. With Candide, Voltaire bumptiously skewered the fashionable misinterpretation of the doctrine of philosophical optimism, unerringly offending kings, scientists, fanaticals, publishers, journalists, and even priests. Comprised in a mere 3 days, Candide's capacity to amuse, disgust, and surprise endures today, roughly 90,000 days later. Theo Cuff's new translation is invaluable for those English-speaking readers who cannot understand French, and the introduction by Michael Wood should prove indispensable to all school children who haven't read the book and are cramming in homeroom before the test. All in all, it's a delightful little package, sure to be a favorite of fans of the Enlightenment or despotic oligarchs seeking tips and tricks to increase their fan base. Like the intro. And another book that I'm going to read, there's a month, I think maybe it's in June. It's in the Ben Reads Good challenge. Yeah. I think there's one in June about, it's kind of a hall of shame, like the book that you've always been avoiding or the book you never read and everybody's read except you. And here it is. Lincoln and the Bardo. So Stephen decided to read this a couple months ago, and just after he started it, and he was reading it digitally. Gosh, I can't even talk today. Maybe I should have waited another day. I was at Half Price Books, and there was a copy of it in the clearance section, and it's in really great condition. So I bought it, and he switched over to reading the print, and he loved it. And you know, I've had a checkered past with George Saunders. I did not really love his most recent story collection. And then I read 10th of December last year, and I really did love, I liked, well, a couple of the stories I liked a lot, and I really loved Simplica Girl Diaries especially. But I've just kind of left being a little bit about George Saunders. But Stephen absolutely loved this. I've always meant to read it. I've checked it out of the library numerous times and never gotten to it. But now here it is in our very own home, and there's no excuse, there's no escape. Lincoln and the Bardo. I'm going to read it. The next one is simply born out of my love for Northwoods. When I read that, I guess I read it in December, Northwoods by Daniel Mason. I really wanted to get another book of his and to have something else to read. So I got a copy of Registry of My Passage Upon the Earth. And these are stories. I don't know if they are linked stories or just a set of short stories. And I believe this was a, was it shortlisted for something? I'm going to have to look it up. The cover is very pretty. And it says, Kirkus starred review. 9 tales of human endurance, accomplishment, and epiphany told with style and brio. An enchanting cabinet of curiosities and wonders. On a fateful flight, a balloonist makes a discovery that changes her life forever. A telegraph operator finds an unexpected companion in the middle of the Amazon. A doctor is beset by seizures, during which he is possessed by a second, perhaps better version of himself. And in Regency London, a bare-knuckle fighter prepares to face his most fearsome opponent while a young mother seeks a miraculous cure for her ailing son. So it sounds like we move around in time and place, and I'm really excited to read because I do love a good set of short stories, and Northwoods was my introduction to Daniel Mason. So I look forward to reading this. Okay, so the next little set of books are the things that I got while I was at the San Antonio Book Festival. And what I meant to buy, so there was a sponsoring bookseller, and it's an independent bookstore there called Nowhere Books, and they had a big tent, and there was two books I specifically was thinking about getting, and then I just kind of wanted to look at some other ones. And one of the books sold out because I wanted to get Blackouts by Justin Torres, and I really loved his presentation at the festival, but they were all out. So we're going to get to that in just a minute, but I didn't buy it at the festival. I did get a copy of Creep by Miriam Gurba. These are essays. I did go to her session as well, and the subtitle is Accusations and Confessions. And I really like this description right here. A creep can be a single figure, a villain who makes things go bump in the night. Yet creep is also what the fog does. It lurks in places to do its dirty work, muffling screams, obscuring the truth, and providing cover for those prowling within it. So some of the essays are personal, some are less so, and about other things, I believe. And her infamous essay that I have not read, but I have heard about many times, in which she absolutely annihilates the book American Dirt, is in this collection. I really want to read this. She said in the presentation that she received death threats for this essay because they were talking about different aspects of power, and she said that was kind of weird. Like, she never thought about herself as being powerful until she received threats for writing basically a bad book review. So I am really interested to read that and what else she has to say in this collection of essays. So look, I bought a nonfiction book. I bought another one too. It's coming up in a minute. Then we went down to that basement and found some secondhand books in the used book store down below the library. Some of them are withdrawn library books, and I think other things they get as donations, because some of them still have Mylar on them. Haven't taken it off yet, but here's what I got. And everything was like $1 or $2. I got two books by Colson Whitehead that I haven't read yet. I got Zone 1, which is his apocalyptic novel. It's supposed to be about some sort of a pandemic has devastated the world, and this is about the attempts to reestablish New York City. So I've always wanted to read this, and so here it is. And then I also got Apex Hides the Hurt, and which is an interesting title, and I really do not know what this is about. And let's see, it's about a nomenclature consultant. Okay, so it's a person who figures out the name for a product. She's a nomenclature associate. So she names things. Maybe we could ask her about some of these goofy pharmaceutical names. Anyway, that's all I know. I'm hoping that I'll enjoy these earlier works. Lo and behold, I did buy another nonfiction book, and it's one that I've heard about several times lately. So because April was Poetry Month, they had, I guess they put different things on this one long table that are maybe seasonal. So they had a lot of poetry, for adults and children, and then they had nonfiction books about poets, and they had also a poet by Ada Calhoun, Frank O'Hara, My Father and Me. And I've heard several people talk about this lately, and Ada Calhoun found old cassette tapes where her father, who was an art critic, Peter Schladel, yeah, I think that's how you say his name, he was trying to write a biography of Frank O'Hara, and he never got to complete it because the family, I think, pulled the plug on permission. But he had all these cassettes and a partial, I don't know what kind of interviews he had, but whatever his work was. And so she decides to try to finish the book. And I don't think that actually happens, but this is about her process. And it says, a groundbreaking and kaleidoscopic memoir that weaves compelling literary history with a moving, honest, and tender story of a complicated father-daughter bond. Also, a poet explores what happens when we want to do better than our parents, yet fear what that might cost us when we seek their approval and yet mistrust it. So I think it's maybe more about Ada and her father than it really is about Frank O'Hara, but they had it out display, I think, because it had to do with poetry and a poet. But it was one of those serendipitous things where I had just heard either 2 or 3 people talk about this book and how much they enjoyed it, and then there it was for like $1. So now it is mine. Yeah, I'm also kind of digging this cover. I like the red and pink. I like the typefaces. I like everything about it. This next one that I got in the sale, it's kind of funny because they had this book for sale full price in that book tent because Lauren Groff was at the event as well. It's Matrix. They had her newer book was the one that she was promoting, but they had copies of Matrix there as well. And I even picked one up and looked at it, but it was paperback. And I thought, oh, you know, that book's been around a while. Maybe I'll find a hardback. And then like an hour later, I found one for $1. So it was meant to be. And this is another book that I've been meaning to read for a couple of years. And I know I'm going to like it just by the people who say they really loved it and how I am compatible with their taste. I know I'm going to love it, but I just haven't read it yet. But now I have a copy. Like a young nun escapes or something like that. She rides out of the forest alone, 17 years old, in the cold March drizzle. Marie, who comes from France. That was my finger. No, I can't make it do it again. Okay, if you heard a questionable noise, it was my thumb. I don't know. I think a nun runs away. That's all I know, and I've always wanted to read it. But wait, there's more. I also found a copy of All My Puny Sorrows by Miriam Toews. Toews? Somebody help me. I haven't read anything by this author. This is one of those people, this is the category, and I think this might be a category in one of the reading challenges. Maybe it's in the Montana Book Challenge, like the author that everyone's read except you. And this would qualify because I have not read anything by this author, hear about her all the time. And this is one of the books that I hear about a lot. And I think it'd be perfect for Mental Health May as well, because it is about a woman who is trying to persuade her sister not to commit suicide. It sounds pretty heavy. But on the inside, it says, touching and unexpectedly humorous, funny and irresistibly warm. So I'm a little bit thrown off because the description of the plot sounds really dark, and then the reviews keep mentioning humor. So that I'm not sure where that leaves me. And it could be, I hope it's a good thing. And I'm going to read it soon and find out. I'm going to put this in my May TBR. And we shall see. Look at this beauty. Anthony Trollope, Can You Forgive Her? It's the first book in the Palliser series. It's kind of thick, but it's a really nice copy. And it even has, somebody put in, I think somebody gave this as a gift because there's an article about Trollope from the New York Times. Oops, it starts over here. And then they put a little arrow to tell the person to turn it over. And I love when there's something inside of a book. I don't care if it's a bookmark or a grocery list or I've found some weird things. I found prescriptions. I found court summons. I found some interesting things in a book. But somebody put an article in there, and I am going to read it. So now I have the first book in the Palliser series. I also have the first book in the Barchester series. And I need to read one of them and start one of the series. And I mean, I have everything I need. I just need to do it. It hasn't happened yet. But I really loved, what did we read for Booktober? The Way We Live Now. And that was my first Trollope. So I'm ready to read more. I just haven't been ready. I'm ready, but I'm not ready. So it's kind of the way it always is. I'm ready to buy the books. Am I ready to read them? Hope so. So we're down to the last two. So like I said, I wanted to buy Blackouts at the tent, but they didn't have any more copies. So I did go and get it after I came back home. So I have Blackouts. I think I'm going to save it for June because I think it'd be a great book to read for Pride Month. Unless I get in the mood and I suddenly want to read it, which is fine. But otherwise, that's kind of my plan with Blackouts. There's a lot of weird stuff in here. I think if you're thinking about reading it, I would say definitely get the print copy because there's a lot of photographs, and then the redacted pages I think are going to be part of the effect of the story. So anyway, Blackouts. I'm ready to read it. Really loved his session at the festival, and I was feeling kind of pitiful when I went to the store to get Blackouts because that was a couple days after that big vertigo thing, which I'm still this month. I mean, I still have residual dizziness that I'm working on from that whole event. So I had to cheer myself up and also get this little book that I've been looking for, Eastbound. Now, I'm going to ruin this author's name, but it's French, and I think it's Maylis de... It's the last name I don't get. De Kerangal? I don't know. I can't speak French. It's about some people who meet on a train, and it's small, and it's lovely, and it has French flaps, and I just wanted it. So that's it. That's my haul. Let me know what you think. Which of these books look interesting to you, or which ones have you read? Tell me your thoughts. I hope to be back in a couple of days with my May TBR, kind of putting it together, feeling kind of moody. We'll see how it turns out. I hope you have a great day, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.